Good morning, and welcome to all of you on this very, very beautiful day. My name is Dr. Jill Sack, and I am the proud principal of this fine school. You may be aware that we had a school-wide assembly this morning with Dr. Buzz Aldrin, our 660 students, and 103 staff members. This building is buzzing with excitement. I cannot repeat everything I said inside. Students, I know you can hear me out there. I'm not going to repeat everything I said inside, but I will share this with you. We are very, very excited to rename our school for a man who actually walked these halls and then went on to walk on the moon. Here we have in this moment, at this very, very special time, an opportunity to teach our students about a great American hero who went to the moon. And most importantly, we have the opportunity to say to our kids, hey, you can go out in the world and you can innovate and you can do great things too. And we're behind you, kids, supporting you all the way. I am honored to be the principal of Buzz Aldrin Middle School, and I'm very proud to work in this amazing Montclair public school community. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the podium our wonderful, supportive Superintendent, Ron Bellondi.
Thank you. Thank you, Jill. We are going to start with our national anthem, which is going to be sung by one of our own, 9th grader from Montclair High School, Janie Zamacki.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Great job. Thank you. Great job. Before we begin, we have another presentation and a performance by our, I want to say, world famous, not just Montclair famous, world famous Drums of Thunder under the leadership of Lou D'Amico. Drums, take it over. Drums of Thunder. Great job. They'll be back a little later at the end, so thank you, guys. Great job. Okay, we're now going to start our formal program. We'll let them get seated for a minute. Okay, thank you again. This is a great day for Montclair. We're here today to honor one of our own and to rename Mount Hebron Middle School to the Buzz Aldrin Middle School. And today there'll be a number of speakers talking about that. Most important for me to say is that standing here today, I was a teenager when Buzz walked on the moon and the space program started. And it was ironic this morning when I was walking my dog at 5 o'clock in the morning. I looked up, and I live in a fairly wooded area, and I looked up and I saw the moon, full moon, bright moon. And I looked up there and my dog was tugging away because he usually walks. He's not going to stand there and look at the moon. And as he was tugging me, I was looking there staring at the moon saying, within a couple of hours, I'm going to be in the presence of a true American hero. And I'm going to have the distinct honor of emceeing this event. And when I looked at the moon, all I could think of was the gentleman that I eventually, at the end of this program, will bring to the microphone, actually went there, walked on it, and came back. And I can't say in my lifetime I could ever be that honored to be here talking today. So thank you, Buzz. In a few minutes, we'll be talking more about you. I'd also like to thank Hackensack University Medical Center of Mountainside, who was our main supporter in this event. They will be a partner with us in our STEM program, and we'll be talking about that later on as the year goes on. And Buzz will also be going back there later on today because he was born in Mountainside Hospital. So that's another event that I think Mountainside will be looking forward to at the end of the day. It's my pleasure to introduce one of the co-chairs and freeholder, Brendan Gill.
Good morning. I've been asked this morning to be a part of this momentous occasion, which I'm truly honored to be a part of, as a member, a citizen member of the Man on the Moon Committee. And I wanted to recognize both the members of that committee and the other elected officials that have taken the time to be with us this morning. I will say that there were certain times in this process that I wasn't sure what was more challenging, charting a course to the moon or getting us all here today together. But I am happy to say and honored to say that we are here giving Mr. Aldrin the recognition he so richly deserves, and it's truly an honor to be a part of this day. I wanted to start also by acknowledging some of our elected officials who have taken the time to be here. We have with us this morning Montclair's own and our state senator and my cousin, State Senator Nia Gill. Also a member and Montclair resident of our great 34th Legislative District team, Assemblyman Tom Giblin. An individual that I get to serve with in county government, a person who is well known throughout this county for his commitment to open space and for his commitment to education, our county executive, Mr. Joe DiVincenzo. Joe D. My colleague on the Essex County Freeholder Board, Ms. Patricia Siebold, Freeholder Siebold. Our county superintendent, Mr. Joe Zara is here. Wanted to acknowledge Joe for being here. Thank you. I also wanted to acknowledge my two co-chairs on this committee. Peter Zorich. Peter, I know you're in the audience. Thank you for everything that you've done. My fellow co-chair, Katie Severance. Katie, please stand. Please stand. None of this would have been possible without Katie's effort on a day in and day out basis. Katie, thank you for putting all of us together. You are a force of nature, to say the least, and we are lucky to have you in this community. And I would also like all the other members of the committee, if you could just please stand or wave to stand, who are with us today. Please stand. Their names are in the program, and they should be thanked for everything that they have done. And I will just finally say, we as a committee took a journey, just like Mr. Aldrin, you did, to get to this day. And in that journey, we hope that we inspired the next generation of young people that are out in this audience to dream big, just like you did, to know that you can walk these halls of our Montclair public schools and do great things, and we're sure that that's going to happen. So God bless Montclair, God bless you, Mr. Aldrin, and God bless the Buzz Aldrin Middle School.
Thank you, Brendan. There are a couple other introductions I'd like to make before we continue with the program. I would also like to recognize the Board of Education who's here today. President Jessica DeConnick is sitting in the front. Vice President Ann Mernon, Dr. Franklin Turner, Joe Cavish, Eve Robinson. Now and Laura Hersuck. I got it. My eyes don't go that quick. So, and I hope if I missed anybody, I apologize. But sometimes it's hard to see when you're looking out in a sea of people, which is great. The next up to speak to us about Dr. Aldrin is Mayor Jackson.
How do I do this? I'll just have to adjust. Good morning, everybody. How are you? Wow, it is a sea of people out there. Unbelievable. Good morning, everyone. I'm honored to be here, of course. This is a great day for Montclair, a great day for America, as a matter of fact. But before I get started, I wanted to introduce my colleagues on the Township Council. Deputy Mayor Bill Herlock. Councilor at Large Bob Russo. Councilor at Large Rich McMahon. Second Ward Councilor Robin Schlager. Third Ward Councilor Sean Spiller. And Fourth Ward Councilor Renee Baskerville. I also noticed I see Judge Ted Stevens in the audience, our county surrogate. Good to see you, Judge. As I was thinking about today, I thought Buzz and I have a number of things in common. I was born in Mountainside Hospital as well. I attended Mount Hebron School. I think that's about it, actually. A life, just a storybook life. Unbelievable story of a man of great achievement and who made us feel that anything was possible. I remember the summer, Dr. Aldrin, after graduating from Mount Hebron, and listening and watching just the notion that someone could actually get into a rocket and get to the moon and land and walk just made me feel like anything was possible. And I speak to people like James Johnson, and I speak with our superintendent, Joe Zara. We were all there thinking, wow, the world is ours now. And I think so many of us, my age and older and younger, have you to thank for that, and we're eternally grateful to you. Finally, just let me say that as a Montclarian, when we go around and people say one thing or another, always good things about this township. I always hear about the great people who live here and how lucky we are to have such a great citizenry. And I couldn't be more proud, sir, to say that you are one of us. You represent us so well, and we're truly blessed to have you among our citizenship. God bless and continue success, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next speaker is a Montclair resident, Montclair parent, and the U.S. Attorney, Paul Fishman.
Oh, please, go ahead. You can adjust the flags, but after Jackson, you don't adjust the microphone for me. I'm glad you didn't put it any higher. Thank you, Dr. Belandi, for that introduction. Thank you and congratulations to the entire committee for putting together this extraordinary event. I can't even begin to tell you how thrilled I am to participate in this event. I run an office of 150 prosecutors. We deal with terrorists and gangs and people who steal millions and millions of dollars. This is the coolest thing I have ever done. And I have to tell you, that emotion is almost entirely universal. When I told my colleagues and my friends that I had been invited to give some remarks here this morning, everyone had exactly the same reaction. Oh my God, that's so cool. Are you going to do it? Can I come? And then those sentiments and those feelings and that excitement was almost immediately followed up by the inevitable follow-up questions. Why you? Do your kids go to Mount Hebron? Are you in the space program? Do you know Buzz? And I have to admit, those are all pretty good and insightful questions, perhaps born of legitimate curiosity, but perhaps driven simply by insane jealousy. I don't really know. But it doesn't really matter. My friends are entitled to the answers. So in order, here they are. Did my kids go to this school? I'll help you figure that out. My kids went to Bradford Elementary School, which feeds into this middle school. My kids' favorite subject is math, at which they are both pretty proficient. And this is, as you know, the STEM middle school. And we live literally 5 blocks from this school. So did my kids go here? No, this is Montclair. So of course they didn't go here. One picked Renaissance and the other picked Glenfield. This was simply too close and too easy for me and my wife. Nevertheless, I do know a lot of kids who are here and a lot of parents who have their kids here, and I know some teachers in this school, and I know Dr. Sachs and her reputation, and this is an extraordinarily place and well deserving of this honor and your name. Now, do I have something to do with the space program? The United States Department of Justice has broad jurisdiction, and we like to use all of it. But we don't have NASA, or the Army, or the Air Force, which are the various agencies and departments for which this pilot and this astronaut worked. The best credential I have is that I was on a working group of lawyers looking how to regulate the use of unmanned drones. That is not really close enough. The last question, do I know Buzz Aldrin? That's a harder question to answer. In its most narrow sense, answered literally, in the way most people mean it, and in the way I've been trained to answer as a lawyer and a prosecutor, the answer to that question is, of course, technically no. I have never met Buzz before. I finally had that privilege this morning only about an hour ago. But in a very real way, much as I and we sort of all presumptuously feel like we can call him Buzz, the answer to that question for all of us is yes. Since he entered our collective consciousness 47 years ago, so many Americans, indeed so many people around the world, have been spectators at and cheerleaders for and witnesses to a most extraordinary life lived by a most remarkable man. In the summer of 1969, I was at Cedar Lake Camp in northeastern Pennsylvania. On one warm July evening, we were collected by our counselors and ushered into one of the buildings where there was what seemed to be, at the time, an enormous black and white TV. In retrospect, I am sure it was quite small. The picture was grainy and the sound less than high fidelity. But it was a night that I suspect that many of you will never forget. For me, there were 3 remarkable things about that event. First, we were allowed to be up and out of our bunks at 11 o'clock at night. That was very exciting. Second, for the first and last and only time in the 3 summers I went to sleepaway camp, we were allowed, in fact, we were required to watch TV. That also was very exciting. And of course, there were those 2 guys in the bulky white suits walking on the moon. And that, of course, was not just exciting, it was astonishing. Now, growing up does funny things. As the years have passed, I've been allowed to stay up many more nights past 11 o'clock. So that aspect of the evening's festivities have faded in significance. And since that time, I've certainly watched more than my fair share of TV. So that part of the experience has also become of less moment. But the last one, the images of those two ungainly figures tottering across the surface of the moon, the accomplishment that was, the perseverance, the dedication, the focus, the talent that it took to get those two men and their compatriot in the capsule above, there and back, has become for me almost increasingly incomprehensible. The audacity of President Kennedy's promise in 1961 to get us to the moon before the decade was over, and fulfilling that promise in only 8 years, the grandeur of that accomplishment that fulfilled that promise, all seems so impossible to have happened. And given the state of our national and worldwide politics, what seems to me today to be the most elusive thing of all is the virtually universal pride, exuberance, and shared warmth that accompanied that walk and the splashdown that followed, feelings that respected no boundaries of party or borders or ideology. Although maybe the Russians were a little upset. And the reason wasn't just the science and the engineering, which were admittedly pretty stunning. I mean, think about it. It's 5 decades later, and we still can't figure out if it's going to rain tomorrow. But as great as those technical achievements were, what made it real, what made it special, what made it personal was who those astronauts were. And at each turn in the space program, and for the last 50 years, all of us, wanted to know, who are these guys? Our appetites were whetted by the right stuff, by Apollo 13, by the book and the movie, by book after book and movie after movie, from success to accomplishment to failure and tragedy and back to accomplishment. We all felt like we knew them, but we wanted to know more. What made them tick? Well, as I said, I just met Buzz Aldrin an hour ago, so I'm no expert. But after 34 years practicing law, 22 of them in public service with the Department of Justice, I have a pretty good handle on public service, what it means, why people do it, and what it takes. So let me just note a couple of things about Buzz's career. When he graduated from Montclair High School, he turned down a scholarship at MIT to enroll instead at West Point. Not necessarily the conventional choice, but for someone who wanted to be an engineer, but so soon after the end of World War II, a choice that resonated as one of the country's best decisions. He graduated from West Point, third in his class, and became a fighter pilot in Korea, shooting down enemy planes. Again, not the easy path. And then, in 1963, after earning his doctorate at MIT while still in the military, he was chosen as an astronaut. Now, there are a lot of us here, one way or another, who are in public service. Many of you are teachers, a principal, a couple superintendents, elected officials, college presidents. There's nothing like public service, the chance to give back to your community, to protect it, to make it more beautiful, to help prepare students for what lies ahead. And that is noble and gratifying in ways that can't always be described. And it always sticks in my craw when people denigrate who government workers are and what they do. But speaking at least for myself, there is one thing my public service is not. It is not dangerous. So to do what Buzz Aldrin did, and to do what the police and the firefighters in this audience and the EMTs do, to make the choices they make, to decide to serve in the way that they decided to serve and that Buzz decided to serve, that is something very different indeed. To fly combat missions, shooting down MiGs in Korea, to sit in a small capsule, knowing that the only way that you will get to the moon is after a series of very powerful, fiery explosions generate 7.5 million tons of thrust right under your butt. And then, when you get there, to land, get out, take a walk where no one has ever been, get back in the vehicle, make sure it goes up, make sure you can dock and get back. Doing that and not being too scared not to go, that takes something special. And we all know, from Apollo 1 and Apollo 13 and the Challenger and the Columbia, Those risks and the tragedies are real, and we remember those heroes today too. But to embrace that, to take those chances, not just willingly, but eagerly, to have the curiosity and the moxie to take your knowledge and experience and make ours that much richer, to dedicate your life and your career to that, that's truly remarkable. And then to follow that up after you retire with a second career as a prolific author of children's books, 3 memoirs, some science fiction, a continuing worldwide tour touting the prospect of missions to Mars. Last week in Nepal, next week in Australia. I read your website. And in perhaps your bravest outing of all, Buzz, you took a turn on Dancing with the Stars at the age of 80. Somewhat more gracefully than he walked on the moon, to be fair. And Buzz, you continue to set an example every day of living your life to the max. Last night, on my way home from work, I stopped at King's just up the road to pick up some things for dinner. And as I got back in my car, I looked across the street and I saw the full moon, the same full moon that Dr. Belandi just talked about, rising in the southeastern sky, right over there, right over that bus. So instead of driving straight down Inwood Avenue to my house, I swung around to Lorraine so I could drive right past the back of this school. And I saw just what I had hoped I would see. And all of you can try this tonight or tomorrow while the moon is still full. I'm warning the Montclair police to watch out for traffic. If you drive by the back of this school at exactly the right time, you will see the moon, big, bright, and full, sitting right above the roof of the new Buzz Aldrin Middle School. It is almost, and it was for me last night, it is almost like the moon itself was endorsing and blessing the name change that we celebrate today. And here's the other thing I thought of as I was doing that drive last night. Near the beginning of what is almost everybody's favorite Christmas movie, George Bailey, played by Jimmy Stewart, says to Mary, his future wife, played by Donna Reed, what is it, oh my God, I can't do a Jimmy Stewart impression, so don't expect that. What is it you want, Mary? What do you want? You want the moon? Just say the word, and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down. Hey, that's a pretty good idea. I'll give you the moon, Mary. Buzz, you have had a wonderful life, and ours is richer and more wonderful too, because you lassoed that moon and gave it to us. Congratulations, and thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fishman. Great speech. And do what he said. That moon was beautiful this morning. I know it's going to be beautiful tomorrow, so take a look at it. Okay. Next up to say a few words is one of our board members, Mr. Joe Cavish.
Thank you, Dr. Belandi. Thank you, Mr. Fishman. I have to say, after a speech like that, I kind of feel like Tiny Tim taking the stage after the Beatles. You learn something new in life every day, and I learned just this morning that I have probably only one thing in common, but nonetheless one thing in common with Buzz Aldrin and Mayor Jackson. I, too, was born in Mountainside Hospital. In this country, we celebrate, we commemorate, we remember firsts and seconds. George Washington, the first president. In 2008, we celebrated the election of the first African-American president. At the risk of jinxing things, and do not yell at me if this doesn't happen, but perhaps in January 2017 we will be commemorating the election of the first female president of the United States. Now, there were some moon shots last night at Fenway Park, and I've got baseball on my mind, and what does this have to do with baseball? And for those who are Yankee fans, you know it was a rough night. In 1973, Hank Aaron became the second player in the history of Major League Baseball to hit 700 home runs. The following year, he passed Babe Ruth and is considered by most to be the legitimate all-time home run king and probably one of the 5 greatest baseball players of all time, if not the greatest player of all time. In 1947, Larry Doby, the pride of Paterson, New Jersey, and the pride of Montclair, New Jersey, became the second African American to break the color barrier. And in 1969, Buzz Aldrin was one of the first 2 people to walk on the moon. Now think about this. Think about this. In New Jersey, we have 500-something municipalities. I don't know how many towns and cities there are in America, but think about it. How many towns can claim as their native son the man who was one of the first 2 people to walk on the moon? Montclair, New Jersey. So on behalf of my great colleagues on the Board of Education, we are honored to have you here today, Dr. Aldrin. We are thrilled, ecstatic to have this school named in your honor, and we wish you Godspeed. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Next up, we have a presentation to Dr. Aldrin. I'd like to bring up who will present the Omaha Beach flag. And let me just give you a little context to this presentation. The company that made the flag that's on the moon and the company that made the flag that's going to be presented tonight, the vice president of that company is a Montclair resident, and the flag company is, I said Montclair the other day, just I'm so proud of Montclair, but it's, I think, on the border of Montclair, close to Montclair. We'll say maybe Verona a little bit. We'll sneak it over a little bit. Somebody corrected me real quick and said, no, it's not in Montclair. I said, for tomorrow we'll make it in Montclair. But anyway, this is a great honor because this is the 70th anniversary of this flag being flown. And I'd like to bring up Bob Caggiano, I'm sorry. My Italian would say, I won't say it, Gianni, if you're Italian. But thank you, sir. Okay, I'll hold it for you.
Thank you. Actually, I just wanted to start this off with a quick story. I first had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Aldrin at a Wounded Warrior Project dinner at the Waldorf Astoria about 3 years ago. And Buzz was graciously saying hello to people, shaking hands. And so I was in this line of people who wanted to say hello to him. And I figured, what am I going to say to Buzz Aldrin? So I got up to him and I finally said, Buzz, we have something in common. He looked at me. I said, we are fellow Mounties. And I had Dr. Aldrin's complete attention at that time. We proceeded to talk about Montclair. I was born and raised on Godfrey, which is right around the street, right around the corner from Princeton Place, where Dr. Aldrin was born. And then I asked him, I said, I think you played football with one of my cousins. I gave him the name, and then I since found out that my cousin had played, was about 4 or 5 years older than, I'm sorry, younger than Dr. Aldrin. But he proceeded to tell me that he was on the team that was undefeated state champions, and he was the starting center. And I think, I'm sure it's not as great as landing on the moon and walking on the moon, but I think it's something Dr. Aldrin's very proud of. Okay, so why is Bob Caggiano from Hammond Flag Makers here? As the doctor said, we produced the first flag, the flag that was planted on the moon by Dr. Aldrin and Neil Armstrong in 1969. You know, it's incredible to think that that flag was up there 240,000 miles from here. I was thinking about that, 240,000 miles, and Buzz made that trip. So if anybody ever complains about commuting to work, just remember that Dr. Aldrin flew 240,000 miles to do his job. Anyway, oh, Dr. Aldrin, I have to bring that back. Okay. So this flag, what we want to do is thank Dr. Aldrin. So this flag was flown on the 70th anniversary of D-Day on Omaha Beach in Normandy, France. And it reads, the American flag dedicated to the National Guard of the United States. The National Guard Educational Foundation hereby bestows this flag upon Dr. Buzz Aldrin. This American flag proudly flew over the National Guard monument dedicated to those guardsmen who lost their lives on D-Day, June 6, 1944. This flag was raised on June 6, 2014, and flew until it was lowered on June 6, 2014. Tendered the 6th day of June in the year of 2014 in the city of Viraville-sur-Mer, Normandy, France, in grateful recognition of the National Guard of the United States and its association, and the certificate is signed by Major General Stephen Danner. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, one of the great things about emceeing an event is you're emceeing it. One of the bad things is when you get to the end and you have to introduce the dignitary, most of the things you want to say, everybody else said. So, I'm not going to be redundant. I'm just going to bring up a couple of things that I kind of looked at when I knew I was going to introduce Buzz Aldrin today before we unveil the actual signage that you're going to see above me. Was I wanted you just to figure out what can I actually say about him that's to get him up here and get people to understand how important he is to our country and to our community. And like I said, most of the things that have been said, but a couple of things. Distinguished Flying Cross. You know, if you've been in the military, you know what an honor that is. How many combat missions he flew to protect what's on both sides of me. People died for those flags. Dr. Aldrin protected us, and the reason I'm up here today speaking is he protected that right and that liberty of freedom that we have to speak. He was the first man to have a 5.5-hour spacewalk. And, this is interesting, he was the first person to take a selfie in space. Think about the picture you all look at. That was an actual moon, that was an actual space selfie. And again, like I said, it was an honor because in 1969, I was a college student my first year, and I remember vividly, you know, I was in summer school, I remember vividly going into the student center on one of those black and white TVs again, and watch that very closely. So that's why I'm really honored to be standing here today. Buzz Aldrin's only the 12 men have walked on that moon you're going to look at tonight. Only 12. And Montclair has one of them. So, and he received a Medal of Freedom Award, Congressional Gold Medal, tremendous honors for a man that I am the pleasure to introduce to you, Dr. Buzz Aldrin.
Hello, Montclair. A Mountie born, I'm a Mountie bred, and when I die, I'm a Mountie dead. So, Ray, oh Montclair. My time at Mount Hebron was a very special time in the formative years of my life. I entered the 7th grade as my father left his position as manager of Newark Airport to participate in World War II. When I got to the middle school, Mount Hebron, junior high, it led to a maturing and to an increased awareness, along with a summer from age 9 to age 16 in a wonderful place in Maine where I learned the fellowship of guys and the competitive spirit, the desire to win. I didn't want to lag behind my two older sisters who excelled well in their studies, and I was monkeying around. Maybe I goofed off a little bit. Maybe I had become aware of girls, and I was a little embarrassed. I developed some of those more aggressive activities here. And of course, it prepared me for Montclair High School and my growing ambitions to be an aviation pilot like my father was. And West Point seemed like the most logical way. My father had some different ideas, but that's another rambling subject. And it tends to get a few people irritated. Sophomore year, I was a blocking back, a quarterback, and I was going to be a running back. Junior year was important. I had to take the entrance exams. So I gave up football, much to my regret in the stands on the first game that year. But there I was, out again with Clary Anderson and Butch Fortunato. Now, in the meantime, all the running backs and passing backs they were cultivated and they knew who they were going to be. But they had an opening in the center position. And I pioneered one-hand centering in the big game Thanksgiving. We were punting, and I one-handedly dribbled the ball back to Bob Deacon. They didn't like that. But 165-pound center in an undefeated, untied state championship Group 4 team? When I got to West Point, 165, I was not attracted by the coach, Earl Blake, for the Golden Knights of the Hudson. Too small. So I got in the swimming team. Nah, too much work. But then I cultivated what I had learned to excel in here at Montclair, and that's pole vaulting. Unfortunately, this was still Swedish steel and some material that didn't bend very much. And later, of course, the pole bends 90 degrees and you're off on acrobatics. But all throughout this school, and Joe Woods and other people who were teaching sports, Oh, I remember I had an English teacher in the 8th grade, and I guess I was enamored with science fiction. Isaac Asimov, H.G. Wells, Arthur Clarke. So I wrote a little English term paper or something on science fiction inspiration. Not very popular. But this school prepared me for a very dedicated, accelerated accomplishments at Montclair High. And I'm so honored that this school was so influential. And now you're going to change the name of Mount Hebron. I always wondered, George Ennis, yeah, he was an artist, I think. But who the heck was Mount Hebron? Was it a mountain somewhere? Not a very tall one. So I thought this was appropriate because of its forming a little child and a budding offering to higher education in between. So much can happen that prepares you. And so I am just so honored to have this school, Buzz Aldrin Middle School, named after me. It's one of the more unique honors that I've received, and it's particularly warming because it's here in my hometown. There is an Aldrin Elementary School in Reston, Virginia, close to Dulles Airport. There is a Buzz Aldrin Elementary School, Schaumburg, Illinois, close to Chicago. But this town will continue to make the Buzz Aldrin Middle School the best school and make me proud. And I will do everything I can to help you. There now is a Buzz Aldrin Space Institute at Florida Tech in Melbourne, Florida. And it will be providing the background for my program of cycling pathways to occupy Mars. So the little kid here at Mountainside to the moon, and then developed the creative pathways for humans to occupy Mars. Now, what better time to be alive? Mother was born the year the Wright brothers flew. I went to the moon, and I'm helping some of you folks, if you want, to maybe spend the rest of your life. I don't know why you'd want to leave Montclair, but the rest of your life on Mars. And I want to thank everyone who has made this possible. I know it took time and dedication and support, and believe me, I really do cherish this, and members of my family, I can guarantee you, will feel very proud that that their father, their uncle, did pretty well in life. Thank you very, very much.
Drums. Buzz, turn around. Go. Our new sign, Buzz Aldrin Middle School. That concludes our program. Thank you all for coming. Buzz will be staying with us a little bit. And again, thank you all for being here for such a great day. God bless. Media, if you want to see Buzz or interviews, the media, just the media. Just the media will be on the my left side, your right side.